Here's three. Oops, let's see. I don't think I'm showing my. Okay, one moment. Where did my slideshow go? There we go. Okay. All right, let's try this again. Nope, that's too big, isn't it?
Can swallow, we can see it, it's fine.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thank you. So again, welcome back, everyone. So today in our next two sessions, I will be working with the group in consultation mode. I just wanted to make sure that in the on our presentation, you see these are the links to the two sessions that we had before. And this is also the link, the participant notes, that's the link to the notes we were taking as we were participating in the different activities that we did together. So this is kind of what I had thought of for us for today. The agenda is kind of reviewing a little bit over last meeting, talking about professional learning, talking about some of the teacher resources, and also about modeling, discussing the simulations that are in the unit. And then I wanted to take the last part of the of our time together to really just do some discussion. What are still some of the questions that you have, some of the things that you would like some clarification? So if that sounds okay, I'd like us to think about what we discussed from, so the last two sessions, we talked about learning set 1 of the diabetes unit, specifically the driving question board and modeling. And for learning set 3, we skipped learning set 2. We'll talk about some of those pieces in a moment. And then learning set 3, we talked about genetics. So I just wanted us to talk about what were some of the things that stood out to you from learning set 1. Let's start with learning set 1, which was the driving question board and the modeling. And are there questions that you have so far about what we talked about for learning set 1 and learning set 2? So if you'll remember, the links, where did I put those links? We have the links to no, I didn't put them there. The links to the unit as well. I'll put them here. No, here. So on side 10, that's the link to the website that has all of the learning set. This is basically the teacher guide. So we talked about learning set 1. And we discussed a little bit of the format of each of the learning sets. So each learning set has its own sub-driving question. How does Monique describe her diabetes? That's the very first one. And we together we watched the video of Monique, and we talked about some of the things we were seeing in the video that made us think about things and what we were wondering. So together, we started building the driving question board. And then we started thinking about how we might group these things together. So I was just wondering if there were any things that stood out to people for learning set 1 or any questions that you had about learning set 1. Other question, I don't know if there's, and you can put questions in the chat if you have questions. So, okay, so next for learning set three. Learning set three, we focused on our second day, we focused on the genetics. So we focused on creating a pedigree, on supporting students on how to create a pedigree and how to analyze data from a pedigree. And then we wanted students to be able to link those ideas of building a pedigree to why Monique might be the only person in her family who has diabetes. And so the sub-driving question for that learning set was, or is, how does Monique's family affect her diabetes? And we were able to look back at some of the questions that we had asked from our driving question board that related specifically to genetics. And so we were able to actually begin answering some of our own questions from the driving question board. So my question to you all is, were there some questions, or what were some of the things that stuck out to you from this learning set, the genetics? We also did an assessment. If you remember, I had you practice one of the assessments that we have for the learning set. Everyone is very quiet today. And I'm doing my teacher weight. Okay, so yes, so we're going to also talk, I want to talk through some of the challenges that we've encountered in the professional learning, like some of the questions that teachers have asked us. And so as we're talking through these things, please ask questions, please ask if you want to stop and discuss further, if there's clarification. So before we go on to some of the challenges, I wanted to make sure we did not cover, so on slide 5, we did not cover learning set 2. And learning set 2 involves one piece of material. So the unit in general does not have a lot of, it's not materials heavy. It's a lot, most of the things you can get from your basic stores there that have kind of school type of materials. The only material that is missing, that is a big part of the unit, is this science takeout kit, where students in learning set 2 are thinking about which kind, or how to detect type 1 versus type 2 diabetes, and where students learn the biology of diabetes. And so I contacted the people from this science takeout kit, and they do ship materials internationally. So in our PowerPoint slides, if you look at this, there's a link to that site. And I'm not sure how your school or district orders materials, but these materials are able to be shipped internationally. And then I wanted to remind you that at the beginning of each learning set here, at each learning set, there's a materials list. And it tells you all of the supplies that you need for each learning set. And this should actually say learning set, not lesson. I apologize. So yes, everything is laid out here. There again, it's not materials heavy. The main material that will need to be ordered is this diagnosing diabetes kit. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Although, you know, I would really recommend that you guys figure out how to get the equipment in your own countries. Most of the materials are actually made in Asia, so it seems crazy to ask someone from the United States who gets most of their materials from Asia to ship everything back to Asia. So I would not. I think if it's easy to do it, I like the companies. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it seems a tremendous. It seems to me somehow we could figure out other ways rather than ship across the oceans.
Right, and this is the only one, Joe, that's made specific, I mean, that we pulled specifically from, this is also another SEPA as a result of a SEPA grant. So they've created these materials, but yes, all the other materials, you should be able to order from anywhere. I mean, we typically use Amazon just because that's the easiest way to get the materials. But this is the only one that we do need to order from them just because of the nature of the kit. But yes, you have access. There's a link here that you can download the teacher guide. So if these are materials that you can get there, I agree. I fully agree that if you can get them there and you don't have to do the back and forth shipping, that's definitely a way to save probably a lot of money. The students typically work in groups of 3. 2 is like the most ideal for these learning kits, but 3 is good. 4 might be a little bit too many students to work on this diagnosing diabetes. I wanted to go to next. So when we're thinking about setting up professional learning for the teachers, this is typically how we plan for professional learning for the teachers. We provide this kind of big picture agenda. I'm not sure how many days or how much time you have with the teachers to prepare them for enactment of the unit, but typically we have 2 full days of professional learning with the teachers. And during day 1, we typically do community building with the teachers. Because these are teachers who are going to be working and enacting the unit. And it's nice to build that community so that when we come together, we also have virtual sessions in between the time that we have the face-to-face sessions. We also have virtual sessions where the teachers kind of come and compare notes about things that are going well, challenges. It's really a time where teachers can also build a community of teachers where they're sharing ideas about things that are going well or things that they might be struggling with in the unit. And for day 1, we typically cover learning set 1, which is the driving question board like we did. And we also really go into the modeling. And we cover the unit architecture. So how is it project-based learning and how does it link to the standards? And I'll change this from NGSS to just the science standards. And we also do an overview of the health in our hands, just overall. Day 2 is typically learning set 2, where the teachers experience the science takeout kit. I think what we have learned has been most useful, and I know Joe does this with all of the Create, is that it's really important to have teachers experience the unit as a learner, so as their students will experience it. And then we take a step out like we did in our sessions and we debrief, like, how did that feel? What are some challenges that you think students will have? What are some challenges that you think you will have as a teacher? And so that's why, for example, in day one, we experience the driving question board, we do the modeling. In day two, we experience the kits, and we collect the data, we analyze the data, we talk through it. We also, on day two, go through learning set 3 and 4, which is the simulations, the genetic pedigree. It's also the first time that students are introduced to the idea of gene and environment interactions. And it's really about thinking about the simulations, thinking about collaborations, and sense making. It's really important that we've realized that teachers take the time for students to really kind of grapple with the ideas, so that helps them with the sense making. So instead of coming in and front loading and giving them all of the answers and giving them all of the vocabulary, it's really about students trying to make sense of what they're learning, and they are developing the vocabulary. We also go over the formative assessments, just like we did in day two. And then we typically talk about, not necessarily fall, but just in general planning. So what does, for some of our teachers, we've realized that they also may need some time to talk about what does a typical day of the Health in Our Hands unit look like? How much can we actually get done in a day? So it's a little bit of lesson planning. Then after day one and day two, typically that's when teachers begin unit enactment. And we also begin, oh, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to stress something you said about day one. So one of as Consuelo said, we really try to have the teachers in the audience experience the materials like they were the learners. But we don't say to them necessarily, you're a 7th grader or you're a 9th grader, but just experience it. And what we try to do is really model it as best we could as being a teacher. And that's including all the discourse moves, everything. And then we typically, depending on other people who might be there, we have another one of the leaders, professional development leaders, sort of debrief what the teachers felt like, the participants, and what they saw happening. What did I do as the instructor, right? To really get across that we provided opportunities for you to ask questions, to share ideas with the other participants, to post things on the driving question board. So we try to get the participants to really notice all the various aspects that we try to model, so they have a sense of how to really carry out this unit. So those debrief sessions, after you very carefully model the activity, are really important in trying to get across to the teacher, the participants, what happens. The other thing that I find really important when doing this is giving a rationale for it. Like, so for instance, why do I have kids experience a phenomena or see something and then ask questions? Why is that important, right? If we provide rationales, it's more likely that the participants in our sessions will really follow through on it, because they'll understand the value of it, right? Often teachers aren't used to getting kids that generate questions, and they might think, well, it's not a good use of class time, and so they're not going to want to do it. But if we give them a rationale, like, look at the importance of kids asking questions is for them to take ownership in this work. And so they see it as part of them. It helps develop a meaningfulness for them. It really causes much more engagement in the activity. So if we can provide these rationales for why do we have kids ask questions? Why do we have them experience phenomena? What's important for them to share among each other? We need to point those features out, but then for each one of them, we really need to provide a rationale, because that rationale is going to help those participants really understand, why should I take part in this?
Yes, yes. And I think the other piece that Joe brought up, it's really important, if it's possible, to have two facilitators. So like Joe said, we typically, the first facilitator is the one who guides the participants in professional learning to experience that that piece of the unit. So for example, the driving question board. And then it's the second facilitator who then does some of that guiding of what did you, so the participants go through similar to what you've gone through in the driving question board. What did you see during this this sample teach? What did you think? What did it make you think? And what does it make you wonder about, like what teachers or what students might find challenging, or what students might think about experiencing that driving question board or the modeling. So it really is about that rationale for the participants and the teachers. Why is it that we're doing it this way? And we're gonna talk about some of the challenges next. But I just wanted to give you kind of our thinking as we are building the big picture for the teachers of how the different sessions will go. We typically have a day 3, so after teachers have begun the unit, about 3 weeks later, we have day 3, which is typically a half day. So it's after school. The teachers stay. I'm not exactly sure how you have professional learning set up for your teachers. But this is the time where we typically go over learning set 5, which is another simulation that we can look at later today or this evening. And we also go over learning set 6, which focuses on again on gene environment interactions, and students are focusing actually more on the environmental, which is food choices. And then if then a few weeks later, we have another half-day session, day 4, and this is where students are getting ready to do their own community action research projects. And we also, through actually the STEM careers are embedded throughout this unit, this diabetes unit. Students experience and are presented with different STEM careers that are involved with diabetes, with diagnosing diabetes. So this is kind of the big picture of how our team thinks about supporting teachers to enact this diabetes unit. So I just want to pause here for a moment and ask if there are any questions about kind of the plan that we typically follow when we are planning our enactment or our professional learning for teachers for this diabetes unit.
I have question, Dr. Consuelo.
Yes.
Yeah. I think in case of Indonesia, we still have to, I mean, we need more time for discussing with the teachers about this topic, because in our curriculum, science curriculum, actually, genetics is taught in grade 9. I mean, the last level, the last grade of middle school in Indonesia, and it's also the last topic. So when we want to give the students or discussing with the teachers about this topic, we have to consider also about other topics that students have to know previously. If we talk about this topic, I think I have mapped the curriculum of science in middle school in Indonesia, and some relevant topics are in grade 7, some in grade 8. So I think we need more time. In case of Indonesia, we need more time to mapping the idea or the concept required for teaching the health on in our hands.
Right,
So I don't know, in USA, maybe this one is one of the topic or one of the themes that actually have already written in your curriculum, so it's quite easy for teachers to teach because it's already set up. But in our case, there are some separated topics relevant with these thema. So I think we have to think also first about how to manage that issue to our teachers, participants.
Yeah, and I think, Murni, I think you bring up a good topic, a good issue, and that is, where, so in the science standards in the US, students in middle school are introduced to the idea of genetics, but they don't go, so, they're introduced to the idea, and basically they need to know that, there is DNA in the cell that codes for proteins. Those proteins code for traits, and those traits are sometimes physical things that we can see, or they can code for things like diabetes, but it's very basic. So students do not go in depth into genetics. That is not until the high school level. So in the middle school level, they're just building a little bit of foundation of the genetics. And we actually have had, so this unit has been taught in both 6th grade and 7th grade. And in 6th grade, the teachers are still elementary, in Michigan, they're still elementary school teachers who typically don't have a really deep science background. Most elementary school teachers don't have a really, again, a deep science background. So we've had teachers, and I completely understand, we've had to give support for teachers about the science pieces, but the science in middle school, especially the genetic science, isn't deep, because the idea is that students are building some of that foundation in the elementary school, and then in middle school, we're building up a little bit more of that knowledge, and then by high school, that's where they need to know things like alleles, and they need to know a little bit, well, they need to know more of the specifics of the genetic. But at the middle school level, it's very, it's really just building that foundational knowledge of genetics. And I don't know, Joe, if you want to say more about that.
Yeah, at the middle school level, there's no mechanism, right? So the kids do not understand the mechanism of DNA and how DNA breaks down to form RNA and how it then codes for protein. They just know that there's this thing called DNA in our body, in our cells, and that it eventually will code, it eventually will help produce proteins, and those proteins encode, help provide some of the characteristics we have. So there's no mechanism, right? So there's no understanding. It doesn't get into what DNA looks like, how DNA cleaves to form RNA, and then how that does transfer RNA. That all is all high school and beyond.
But yes, I mean, you know your group of teachers better than I do. So you will know how much time you may need to take for each of the learning sets. But for us, because we have limited time with our teachers, and because this is occurring during their school year when they're already in school, we know that right currently, I mean, this has been an issue. It's hard for us to pull the teachers out of school because of a lack of subs. We don't have subs that can fill their spot for that day. So we have limited time with the teachers, and that way, and in that regard, that is why we typically do the full days. We try to do it right before they start the school year, and then they start the unit enactment. We meet with them virtually so that we can do check-ins to see like what's challenging, what are some things that we can support you with. These virtual sessions are typically after school for about an hour and 15 minutes. And then these day 3 and 4 sessions are half days, and they come after school. So that again, we're not asking the teachers to come out of the classroom, because We just really right now do not have subs that can take their place so that we can bring them out for a full day. But that's because of our situation. You know, if you know that you'll have more time with them, or if you can do more of these half-day sessions in the afternoon after school, for us, those have been successful, but they are hard, right? Because the teachers have been in the classroom all day, and then we're asking them for another 3 hours of their time. So we typically have dinner for them. Like their day ends at 3. We start at 3:30, and we provide dinner for them. And we have those 3 hours where we're going through another piece of our unit. That was a really good point, Monique. Are there any other thoughts about kind of how we plan our time with the teachers? And I don't know what other people think, like what are other some of the constraints that I was talking about, are those constraints that you all will be facing as well? And you can put comments in the chat if you'd like, or questions. So let's talk then about what are some of the challenges. So I'd like you to put in the chat, what are some of the challenges you think teachers will encounter as they enact the unit? You have seen a few pieces of it. So some of the things that we've had discussions with our teachers that have been challenges is thinking about how do we guide discussions, how do we guide the discussions in the classroom? And specifically, it starts out at the beginning. So when students are doing the driving question board, when the teachers and the students are doing the driving question board, many students are actually not used to asking questions because they're used to the teacher asking them questions. So when we present this to the students in the beginning, it's really challenging because they think, wait, you're asking me to ask questions? Aren't you as the teacher supposed to be asking questions? So teachers will say, oh, my students aren't going to ask any questions. They don't say anything in class. But one of the ways that we have found, excuse me, that really helps is in that, and we did it on our first day together. Sorry, excuse me, let me get some water. Was doing see, think, and wonder. So you're just asking students, what do you see? What did you see in the video of Monique? What did it make you think? So we're not asking them to produce any questions yet, right? We're just saying, what did you see? Oh, I saw that Monique said this. So when we say see, it's kind of what did they notice, right? I noticed that Monique had to move in with her mom or her grandmother. I noticed that Monique said that she was feeling really sad. So we're just asking them, what did you notice? What did you see? Then we ask them, well, what does it make you think? Well, it makes me think that, wow, having diabetes must be a hard thing or must be challenging. And then we ask them, well, what does it make you wonder? So if we can have students move from what they're seeing or noticing to what it makes them think, to what does it make them wonder, we're kind of scaffolding them to begin asking questions.
So the curriculum and how do you get teachers to do various aspects, but we can't respond to questions like, we can't respond to questions like, it's going to be very hard for the teacher to cover both the school syllabus and these materials, right? That's not our, we can't, that's not where we're at. Where we, you know, we work with that in our US schools, but in the US schools, we built these curricula to match our standards. And so those kind of comments about matching the school syllabus doesn't fit for us because our work does fit the school syllabus. So this is, I think this is really these questions regarding fitting the school curriculum and fitting things like they do not match the textbooks, students aren't prepared to do this, knowledge of modern teaching methods. Partially that's what Consuelo and I are trying to help you do, and Anne is trying to help you say, what are some modern teaching methods and how do you go about helping students do this? But I think Kesra or Buren really need to respond to these. I just can't. It's not, you know, there's 4 different countries involved in this, and I don't know each one of the countries.
Yeah, okay. Good evening to you all, and good morning to Joe and Consuelo. Yeah, actually I attend many of your sessions, but yeah, last month. So actually the purpose of this program, right, is to learn about quality units, to learn that how these learning units and embedded with good practices, right, in CR and modeling can actually help our students, right? So I think that is the purpose of this program. And we invited faculty members from universities and teachers who can benefit from using them. Without using them, we will not know that how these units can actually help, because we are inspired by how these units benefit students in the US. And we hope that if our teachers are able to apply some of these units, they will learn the concepts better. Right? So I think I like to, yeah, every change, there's always the obstacles, right? So, but I think every change, there are ways that we can find solutions. If we think that the purpose is very worthwhile for us to do something, right? So, but we also respect the participants, that how do you think you can benefit the most from the time, the efforts that we put together in learning about these units, right? Just only learn and know about it without implementing it, it will not, we cannot see anything at the end, at the far end, who are the students. And because I think the program also want to prove that if teachers learn this practice and they are able to help students make better explanation, understanding more, it will lead to many things that maybe your universities, your groups would like to advocate, that yes, this is a way that we should change the way that or transform the way that our students learn, right? But we know that adopting something from the US, that will be something that fit in very well, something that you need to adjust and change. But how much you can benefit from these efforts that we put together depend on you and depend on teachers who can realize the benefit. So I think we used to, I mean, our team used to implement many units, like the Smithsonian units in Thailand. And we learned that, yes, it's not easy. But if you can prove that maybe there are ways that if we teach students differently and students learn better, I think that is worthwhile, right? I learned that some schools, the teachers are very passionate and bought in to this unit and these practices, and then they talk to their principals and they talk to their peers, they rearrange their time, and they try to find a slot in alternative slot instruction time, so that some student or maybe there are a lot of time that they can add to the existing time. So I think yes, it's not us who decide for the teachers, but we should encourage the teachers to think about that, how we can find more time if the existing curriculum actually may be very limited in time. And I think I want the conversations to be like that, as long as teachers really see how these practices and the units can help their students. And in my view, the professional development that we are going to provide, there should be a slot that we can have a discussion among teachers. But the direction should be that how they can work around in their instructional time to be able to adopt these units. But the adoption, in my view, should be at some level that we can see the result, right? I think we discussed about this when we were in Bangkok. If you expect a student to adopt only maybe 1 hour a week, can you really see the change in what, like, the efforts, the dosage that we provide for teachers and for students to be able to practice this practice is also very important. That's why this unit have been designed to be 8 to 10 weeks with certain number of the implementation time. I think that's how the units can really help our students practice certain way of learning, and also teacher learn about using and adopting the practices. Yes, this is my my point of view, and maybe anyone would like to reflect or comment or any input. Yeah, you are very welcome to share. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to just stress something that Kesra mentioned, and that is if you just do it one day a week, it's not going to help you or help them, right? So the teachers do have to find time to engage kids, right? You can't get the kids in saying, let's learn about how we can prevent diabetes and make our lives healthier as a driving question, and just come back to it every week or every other week or 1 hour a week, and get them to build models and write explanations and use evidence, because it won't fit together, right? If you remember in some of the earlier sessions we had, or even it might have been during the summer, in one of my talks, we talked about the importance of coherence and how things need to build and on each other, right? And so if you can't find time to have these materials be used coherently in the class or across time, then children won't learn from it either. And then basically it's negative feedback, right? The teacher says, see, kids don't learn by this. And so it doesn't do any good. We're stuck at the same place we were at. So you really, if you're gonna do this, you really have to dive into it and say, yes, we're gonna really try to do this in our classrooms and see what kids really get out of it, both from their learning of these important concepts, as well as their own personal motivation to want to learn science as time goes on.
Yeah.
And,
Mm.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think recruiting teachers who are willing to put efforts into trying out this unit, I think is very important, and that yeah, they should it should come from their willingness that they want to try, and the purpose of this program in a big picture is that how we can help transform the way that teachers teach STEM, right? So I think that usually teachers who want to change and who want to learn new ways of doing their work, I think, yes, I believe that there are a lot of these teachers that we can find, and they can be the lead teachers in the future that lead other teachers, because they have proof that when they try a new approach that we introduce to them, and they can see the change in their students, and they also can grow professionally in their teaching, and that help them gain the confidence in learning and developing the professional like way in teaching through our support. And yeah, I every time when we introduce any new unit, like 20 years ago, when we try to introduce STC, this is always the feedback that we got. So I understand that how you feel, because it's something that it doesn't fit exactly. Yes, it doesn't fit exactly, because we know that we want to see new ways of teaching, right? So when you want to see new way of teaching or change, you must try to work around and find solution. And it will not be like 100% implementation at the first time, but you might find a good number of teachers who want to try, and the process of recruiting those teachers is very important. That who those teachers are, how you can find them, and how you can support them to implement these units. Yeah.
And I would like to add that what we have found in our work is that it takes time. It takes time for teachers to make these shifts. And I tell them up front when we begin and we have a new set of teachers, I tell them, and that we've found this again and again, because we have been working on this unit now for almost 10 years. This unit has been you know, like revised, and we take teacher feedback very seriously. But I know, and we have heard, the first year the teachers are really overwhelmed, kind of, and they say, and it's a little, and I tell them it's a little bit bumpy, it's a little bit messy, because we're asking teachers to make a very big shift. So they're not, we're asking them to now learn to be guides to student learning. So we're not asking them to be the ones that are forcing this learning. The students, through these phenomena, are being engaged. Like Joe said, we want them to see this as something like, oh, this is really interesting. Now I have some questions. So that's why we introduced it with, for us, this person, Monique, this young person, Monique, who has diabetes, and students start asking questions and they bring some of their own experiences. Some of these students may know people who have diabetes. They may have diabetes. And so it's that hook to get them. And at first it's really hard for teachers to think about, oh, I'm not the one that's doing all of the like pushing and guiding this. I'm guiding the students, but the students are the one who are the drivers of their learning. And so we typically say it takes 3 years for teachers to really feel comfortable, and it takes time. We have to understand that the first year, I tell them it's a little bumpy, but it's okay that it feels bumpy. The second year they come back and they say, okay, I remember some of the things that didn't work well from last year, and I've already made some notes in my book and I'm going to make some changes. By the third year, we see the teacher saying, I got this. Now I get this shift. And the really, for me, because I love the students. That's the ultimate group that we want to really help, right? But the teachers, when we see the teacher saying, oh my gosh, I know I'm going to use the driving question in another, not this one, but now I know the driving question board. I'm going to use that for my next unit, or I'm going to use modeling for this unit. So it's not only that the students are learning this new science, but that the teachers are gaining these new practices that then they use for other things that they're teaching. And that for me is just like, oh, yay, now they're taking these practices that we're focusing on the unit and they're using it for other things. And another thing I want to say is that I know somebody said that about the materials don't necessarily match the textbooks. The idea though is that students actually with this unit are being exposed to almost all of the scientific practices. So they're learning how to collect data, they're learning how to analyze data, they're learning how to ask questions, they're learning how to model. So when you look at the idea of the standards and all of the practices, these students are actually experiencing I think 7 of the 8 practices they are really going in depth in. They're doing mathematical computation, so they're being exposed to all these practices that then the students can take those ideas and they can use them in other areas of science. And so I think those are some of the things that we have, because we know we've had pushback from the teachers saying it's a really long unit, and we say yes, but students are learning these ideas in depth. And I think one of the most surprising things that we have found is that when we worked with a group of high school students who were doing a different unit, and we asked them about these genetic ideas, they were able to recall from middle school, like this was 5 years later. They said, oh, we remember Monique, and they were talking about how the mom and dad, how Monique inherited the traits, and they were able to recall that. Like that is really powerful when you see that students are able to remember these ideas that they learned in middle school all the way to high school. We were completely surprised that they were able to recall those things. And that's because the students are driving their learning and they're creating that knowledge. And so it sticks. It's not the teacher front loading, giving them all that information. The students are building that knowledge and it sticks. We've seen that it sticks.
Right. And what's really impressive about that are the students that Consuelo works with. Consuelo works with students who typically do not succeed in science, and they typically don't like science. So this is the environment that she works in is a very under-resourced districts where kids don't have very many experiences. And who typically don't like school, right? They're not like, this is not their thing. And so that's particular science. And so that they can come back when they're in high school and they have remembrance of this, that is critical, right? And what you see in Consuelo's description is when you create these rich contexts, the kids have images in their heads in which they can attach the concepts to. often one of the troubles with learning challenging concepts like genetics, etc., is that kids have no ideas about where to attach this to. But you heard Consuelo say very clearly that the kids remembered, oh, Monique, and what could Monique do to improve her health? So these are very important ideas. And it's not that we're working with, most of our projects do not take place in schools where kids are like A+ students. These are kids that typically struggle. Now, we also work in schools in which kids are really good, and it also works for them. So the techniques are evidence-based that show to work across a wide variety of children. So yeah, I think it's very important that even though it's a small, it's just a little case study and it comes from Consuelo's remembrance of what happened, it's still an important piece of data to think about how these types of units can really impact students' lives.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say, because who was this? Ina talked about the need to use a differentiated approach when planning a lesson. So what we've realized is that, like Joe said, students of all levels they all have access to this knowledge, right? So we find that this is good for students who have trouble reading. This is good because we're asking them to do a variety of things. So one of our, we've had teachers say, well, my students can't read or write. And we go through the whole first learning set and we say, wait, but we didn't read anything. And we ask them to write very little in the way of the driving question board. And we ask them to think about what are ways in which you could support a student who maybe struggles to write. You could ask another student to help them write some questions, or the teacher themselves could write the question as students are saying the questions. And so what we've noticed is that students at all levels learn with this type of, this format that we have adopted for our unit. That it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to make a different lesson for different students. We can challenge students at all levels with this kind of project-based learning unit. But I will recognize, so CT said that the main challenge would be time constraint for teachers to finish the school syllabus as well as this lesson. We have those same issues. And those are things, like Joe said, I can't necessarily address for you, but it's needing to understand the payoff, right, of choosing and saying, we're going to focus on this unit because I know that students are going to gain all of these scientific practices and they're going to learn a depth of that knowledge. But I do recognize that teachers are also facing their administrators, and they need to be able to talk to their administrators and to show that it's going to take me a little bit of time to get this under, but I see students more engaged, or I see students their understanding is much better learning this way. And for the teacher to say, my practices are also improving. That's very powerful. But I recognize there are challenges. Okay. Are there any other comments about that? And I don't want to lessen those challenges because I recognize they are challenges.
Yeah, I just want to comment. Since I joined the training from the beginning and I didn't miss any class, so I really enjoy the trainings and also all the contents. And as I said to Dr. Kestara, that for remembering the content, I soon taught my student the same way, the same content, for example, water quality and also search modeler. I believe that all participants here, all friends also have the same feeling that they also have a great opportunity to learn a new way of teaching. That we know each country, for example, in my country, Indonesia, that some of way of teaching of the teachers is still the same, the same way from well, many years ago to now, there are no significant differences. So that's why we also have no well, even our curriculum changing regularly, but I think there are no differences in a way of teaching on how to teach science in our class. So I believe that this is the good way to share to our teachers. And as all the trainers, Professor Joe, Anne, and also Dr. Consuelo have already told us and make us have the good feeling, have the good understanding of these materials. So I think this is the challenge of me and also other participants, how to share the same feeling and the same understanding to our teachers. So because we have different culture, different way of thinking on teaching science. So I think that's the big challenge for us, to think about how to deliver the content, how to deliver the way of teaching to our teachers, whether we have to do the same or imitate all the training sessions, or we have to make some adaptation to make our teachers comfortable and easy to do it. I believe that it also takes a lot of times to do it, because in Indonesia we have 5 days school work, and the teachers only have Saturday and Sunday, but Saturday and Sunday is family time. So sometimes we just ask them to do in every Saturday. For after school, I think it's quite difficult, because they will go back from school around 4 o'clock in the evening, and that's for, after that the rest time is for family. For doing the same things like us today, every night we have class, I think it's not possible to do in Indonesian case. So that's why some adjustment have to do. But I think the big challenge for us is how to share the same situation, the same feeling, the same understanding that we have through the trainings to our teachers. In my case, it's quite easy to do it with my students, because I'm university teachers, university lecturers, and then for I think university lecturers have quite a big opportunity to share the idea of this new way of teaching to our teacher training, free service teacher training candidates, rather than to teach to in-service teachers. But the challenge as in-service teacher is more important to change the way of teaching in science. So we have to think for that two sides of targeting respondents of this training. So well, in our university, in our team, we still discuss now how to do the base teacher training for introducing this way of teaching to our teachers. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Dr. Mani. Yes, I understand that how the concern that you have about the in-service, because it's more challenging, right? The teaching student is more manageable because they have the time that you can introduce them to these units. That's why I think when I discussed this with Dr. Wayudi, we want to include the MOECRT, the ministry, into the picture, so that they can buy in to this initiative, and maybe they have the group of master teachers in service, so that if they buy into this initiative, they want some teachers to be the pioneer in piloting these units, and they want to build the capacity of these lead teachers. And we, if they buy in this approach, right, that means the motivation of the teacher is higher, because I try to think about the experience that I have with the teachers in Thailand. When the authority buy in and support them, right, they are more motivated to do and to grow, because the authority really see that this is an important project that can lead to the long-term change in the bigger communities, and they are and their efforts are recognized. I know that because teachers have been so, like, teacher have a hard work, right, in teaching. If we add something to their, like, it's a burden for them, right? But this burden is a worthwhile burden, that not just only for their own students that they can see the result, right? But actually there is the career path for them, that if they tried out these units, that means there might be a role in the future that they can expand and help other teachers. I think the way that we should try to pursue it should be that path. It's not just only from their willingness alone, willingness that to learn, plus the support from the leader of the education authority is very important. And I think a conversation with the MOECRT about the lead teachers who might be interested to try it out, with the leadership support at different levels, from the authority level, from the ministry, from the Department of Teacher Development, from the schools. I think will help motivate also teachers to be able to try it out as a group of the lead teachers. This is my view, that to help and support teachers in terms of the career growth as well, recognition from the ministry, from the authority, is also very important. Yeah.
And I think, thank you, Kesha. And I think it's also, I think that's why it's also important that when teachers experience, when they come to professional learning, that we really try to have them experience those practices that we as the teacher, the teachers, I guess, that we also try to practice what we preach, right? So having the teachers, we typically have the teachers, we have a driving question for the teachers, and we have them go through that process, not only experiencing these examples in that are in the unit, but also going through some of these. So they see us modeling some of those questions, probing questions, like, well, tell me, and one of my favorite that I always use is when we're talking with the teachers, well, tell me more about that. So they see me practicing those things with them as well. So it's in finding ways to have the teachers also experiencing some of these teaching practices, seeing us use them. But yes, there are many challenges, but I think as Dr. Kesha said, that in the end, it will take time, but it is worth it. Making some of these shifts and finding teachers who are willing to and open to trying these things that are going to be a little bit challenging, but finding teachers who are willing to try it, I think would be important, because then they set an example for other teachers to see, wow, I see that his or her students are really engaged in these things, and that makes a difference. That word of mouth helps. So yes, but I wanted to go back to something that Murni was talking about, and that was one of the other challenges of the modeling, or trying to decide like what kind of modeling? I know you all have been through, excuse me, through the Sage Modeler training. And we have also done the training. And initially for us, we found that having the students use Sage Modeler for diabetes was quite complex. It was quite complex because it's a biological process that has many systems that are affecting it. So you have the genetic and you have the environmental. So having students use Sage Modeler was good, but it was also very complicated. And for the teachers, it was also very complicated, and it was a lot of time to get teachers to understand how to use Sage Modeler. So for us, it has been beneficial to teachers who have gone through the training. We encourage them to use Sage Modeler, but we also recognize that many of our teachers have not done the training of Sage Modeler, and that the paper pencil model is just as powerful for students to create their models of diabetes. So I think that was a question that somebody asked in one of the sessions about whether to use Sage Modeler or paper pencil. For us, we have found that because it's such a big idea, diabetes is such a big idea, that is why at the end of each learning set, students are building a piece of the model to tell the whole story of diabetes. So we encourage the teachers to use paper pencil if they have not had the training of Sage Modeler. And that's not to say they can't use Sage Modeler. That is, it's a great and powerful tool to use. But we have mostly found that for our students, using paper and pencil and then creating one big consensus model that all of the students create at the end has been equally as powerful as using Sage Modeler. So I didn't know if people had any thoughts or questions about the modeling part. Or if Joe, you wanted to add anything about modeling, because I know you were doing Sage Modeler with them.
No, the only thing I would say is that those skills or those practices, like what is a model and how to construct a model, why constructing models are important, really need to be developed, right? So, and again, if you're working with the same kids throughout the school year, then you can build on it. But otherwise, if they're different groups of people or students, then you have to basically, each one of them, you have to help them understand what goes into making a good model. And we spoke about that. We can certainly revisit that if that's important for people. The same thing goes into what makes a good explanation. So those are actually foundational aspects that are important to all the units you've been involved in. But I would never teach them, it's okay, like what I did, to take a little bit, like one class period, and quickly introduce someone to how to build a model. But my own personal preference is always to do things in context. So if we could get kids to, if we could get the participants and then subsequently the students to basically build models and explanations in context, I think and what I mean by that, within the unit, not just as a separate outside activity, but within some meaningful science they're trying to learn, that's the best way to go about having them develop understanding of both modeling and explanations.
Yeah.
By the way, Consuelo, I don't want to interrupt what you're trying to get accomplished, but I'm not exactly sure if it was with Kessero or Buren, but with one of them, I've been having a little side chat on the chat, and we think it might be important just to stop for a little bit and ask the participants how we can actually help them.
Perfect.
Right? Because Kessera, was I talking to you or Buren? I wasn't sure who I was typing.
Yeah, to me.
Right, so I was lucky. I saw two people. Anyways,
yeah.
I think it might be important as we go forward, because we have a number of consulting days coming up. And certainly all these consulting days can't just be either Ann talking to them, you talking to them, me talking to them. There's supposed to be consulting days where we can help them really develop understanding of how to do professional learning.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we should just send them off, and maybe the best way to do is to send them off in the breakout rooms by countries and have them
Okay.
come up with a list of how we can help them in these consulting sessions. That's just an idea. I don't think, as I sit here, I know Consuela, she's a great PD person. And I know she's struggling with how to help you. And I'm going to struggle to, and I know Ann did exactly the same thing when we were on the water quality, right? And the way to help you isn't for us just to sit here and just talk about what we did, because like telling kids challenging concepts, it goes in one ear and out the other ear. And we don't want it to go in one ear out in the other ear. We want to really make a difference in how science is taught in your countries. That's why we're here, right? We're not here for any other reason but to really try to change science education
Yeah.
for the better. So we're going to use all this time together. I think we really need to figure out how is it that we can use these consulting times to really support you, because I'm at loss. Consuelo wrote me and said, Joe, what should we do tomorrow? And I wrote back, I said, Ann and I, in the last time we spent 3 hours preparing, but we didn't use any of that material. I said, I'm not exactly sure. I gave her some ideas, but I just don't feel like, maybe I'm wrong and maybe we really are supporting you, but I really want to figure out how we can best support you so that you can take these materials and have some really strong evidence underneath them about how it can really support kids in learning.
Yeah, I think based on what Dr. Murray raised before, right, that you raised about, we learn from you, right? But now how we are going to help teachers to learn how to use this unit in their classroom, right? I think this is the professional development design, right, session that I think if you start with maybe thinking about what you used to do before about the PD, and now after you have learned from Joe and Consuelo about this unit, and you have to think back that, if you are going to help teachers learn about this unit, how you are going to do it in your past experience, what method work. And I think from the literature and from many of your experience, right, the hands-on learning is very important, right? That they must learn what they're going to teach through the hands-on. And they must be able to demonstrate to you that they understand and be able to show to you that this is what they are going to deliver the instruction to their students, right? Without really witnessing that how they're going to pose questions, how they're going to ask meaningful questions. And because we are very fortunate to have these units that are very elaborate in list of questions, in the assignment of for students, it's very well structured. How you're going to use those units that are well written to help students use them appropriately in the classroom, right? And I think that discussing with each other about at the end of the day how Joe and Consuelo can help your team in designing an effective PD is our goal. So I think having the team to discuss among themselves and come up with the question, right, that how we can support you, how we can help you during the consultation time. it's a good, then we come back and see, to get your input on this.
So should we maybe, so I think Burin might be able, he's would be able to make, or
Yeah,
or
breakout
the,
session. Yeah, I think Maureen will help us doing the breakout sessions by country.
Yep.
Yeah, as before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I think, so let's think about then, when you go into your teams, Kesra was saying, so let's see, let's make another, hold on, let me insert new slide. So, in your teams, let's, so you're going to, discuss some of the, maybe some of the challenges you foresee. Wait, foresee, I spelled that wrong, yeah. You foresee in supporting teachers. What are the questions you have about these challenges? And question mark. Joe, any other thoughts? So we want them to kind of talk about what are the challenges they foresee for their region, and then what are some questions they have about these challenges that may come up. What else, Joe?
Yeah, I think ultimately what we would love for you to do, and Kesra, please chime in on this, is for you to come up with a plan of how you're going to be doing professional learning with people in your countries. So that's where we got to get to, right? I mean, the goal is, and I could be wrong on this, and this is why I think it's really important for Kesra and Buren to chime in. The goal is for you to have a plan to support your teachers in enacting these new visions of teaching and learning STEM. And these curriculum materials provide you with examples of what they might, of what they all are. But how are you going to take them and modify them for your country? Not so that teachers do what they normally do, right? Kids are still going to be constructing models. Kids are still going to be asking questions. Kids are still going to be experiencing phenomena and trying to figure out phenomena firsthand. They're still going to be writing. They're still going to be writing explanations, right? So, but you might change the materials a little bit based upon your situation. So you're going to adapt the materials to better fit your cultural environment. But what's the plan? What plan do you have that teachers are going to be able to enact this and then somehow get a measurement of what the impact is, both on the kids and on the teachers? Is that correct, Kesra?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But I also believe that in this room, because we recruit for some participants later, right, that if they're interested to join the sharing session, Burin, am I right that there might be some teachers who actually might plan to implement the units themselves in this room? Yeah, right. So for those teachers, yeah, yes, actually you can, yeah, because if you are interested to try it, and if you can take part in teaming up with some of the, with some faculties in your country, that would be very wonderful, because your input about how this unit can be applicable or aligned with the curricula is very, will be very helpful for the university faculty team. So yeah, you also feel free to join them. Not just only the head of the teacher who are going to adopt the units, but also wearing the hat of being in the team of the PD team that led by the faculty members. from universities. Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
should,
Mm.
we have, so this is just the beginning. That doesn't mean you have to come up with a full-fledged plan and know
Yeah.
everything at the end of, we have less than a half hour. But let's
That's the
begin.
goal, right? The goal is
Yeah.
by the time these consultation sessions end,
Mm.
which will be
Yes.
in a couple months,
Mm.
and they'll have plans, right? So
Mm.
you're not going to come up with a plan today,
Yeah.
but I just want everybody to know that that's where we're going.
Yeah.
And that's what these consulting sessions are about. It's not that Consuelo is going to give you further information. It's not that I'm going to do it. It's sort of like, how can we help you? What do you need from us to help you actually carry out really good professional learning?
Mm.
And it's not me standing up there and telling you how to do interactions, or Consuelo telling you how to do health in our hands, or Ann telling you how to do the water quality unit. You have to now dig into the materials yourself and start thinking about, how am I going to get teachers to understand the driving question?
Mm.
You can say, Joe, what did you do? Consuelo, what did you do to help the teachers understand the driving question? But you need to start by saying, okay, we know that setting context, getting kids to see why the situation is meaningful is really important. Therefore, we're using things called driving questions, not just topics. Kids are going to start answering questions about things that are important to them. How do you get teachers to see the value of that, right? We can tell you what we suggest, but those are questions you have to come back to, and you have to plan your schedule, right? So how are you going to support? What are your plans in supporting teachers and then their students in knowing how to model? What are your plans in helping teachers know how to write explanations and see the value of using evidence and how they can translate that to their students? So you need to make plans about how you're going to do that, and then we can act as consultants if you provide questions. But we're not going to provide professional plans for each country. Well, we can't, because we don't know your countries, so, or your situation. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah. I agree.
So Marin, do you want to explain the breakout rooms?
Yeah, I already create the eight breakout room according to the country for the participant. So if there is no country, they can join room number 8. If they have only just one of them from the country, or they
Okay,
are feel free
so
to
before,
join any country as well.
okay, so before we break out into the rooms, what questions do you have about what you're going to do in the breakout room? None? Okay. Okay, so let's, so if you go to your Zoom tools, you should see, like Berin said, either your country or if not, room 8. So let's say 10 minutes, Joe, how long would you
right,
say in the
well,
break?
right, I would like to look at the list, so we only have 25 minutes left, so I could continue with them tomorrow. So let's meet for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll look at maybe we'll start having people share what they think some of the challenges will really be, and then we can move on from there. How's that?
Mhm.
That sound okay to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll say we'll come back at 45. So go ahead and start joining the rooms if you can, please.
I wonder, Buren, is there a way to move people in the groups? I mean, I'm a little confused why
Yes,
people aren't, I'm a
yeah,
little confused, why people aren't moving in the groups, right?
yeah,
So
we
I don't,
can just move to, you can click the move to,
yeah, I'm not sure if people are like, Saul is here. I know that because I can see her face. I can see her on video, and yet she's staying in the room. She's staying with us and not moving to the room. So I don't know if that's because she doesn't know how to go to a room. But the other people, I can't see their face, so I don't know if they're really on or what. So I'm a little confused about how we can efficiently move people to, different rooms.
yeah, because for this one, I choose that they have to manually choose it themselves. So they are feel free to select any room that they want to participate.
Right, but we have 8 people who didn't go to a room.
But I think, Vern, if you go into the breakout rooms, there, and like if I highlight someone, I can assign them to a room.
Yes,
I just don't know who to assign them, what room to assign them to.
yeah, right.
But if I highlight their name, if I just hover over their name, it gives me the option to assign them to a room. I just don't know what room I should assign them to.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try to find, look for the list. Okay, I'll try to assign. Really?
Right, so now I just see um Harizman, Hazrin, Haryana, and Arvin.
Anyways, Consuelo, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over the meeting, but
No,
I,
no,
I have to do all these and I'm not exactly sure. I have to figure out a plan because I don't necessarily think what's going on is working to help them provide professional learning. And it's not your fault, but
no,
but we need to
yep.
get them to participate more and they're not participating.
Yeah, no, I fully agree that, right, we want them to be able to walk away from these sessions and have a plan, like, I know what this looks like for me and my group. Because it is different, it will be different from what, right, I can say all the things that we did. But at the end of the day, they have to figure out how that's going to work for them. And I needed to ask. So it looks like next week there is no session.
I think I move everyone.
Thank you, Baron. I still
Yep, you're
see
welcome.
Arvin and Hazreen. And
Really?
Pan, yeah. Now I just see Pan and Arvin, I think.
haven't seen. Oh, I see. Maybe they just come. Let's see.
I'll stop sharing for now. I don't think I need to share. I still don't think Arvine is in any room. Is she? Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Not,
I
I think.
actually took.
not joining. Okay.
So Arvin certainly
Oh,
is, she's with us. But I don't know if she's there or not because Arvin,
Yeah,
can
the
you hear me?
status is not joined.
no.
Arvin is still on our screens. So I don't know if she's, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know if she doesn't know how to join a room or I don't know what.
And it looked like Aziza has come back.
Yep.
Joe, I was gonna make some empty slides that people can put their questions from region, or should we just have them put them all in one slide? Any thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, say it again.
So I was on the slide deck, I was just gonna add some empty slides that people can go into and put some of the questions and things that they have. I was wondering if I should do it for the 8 rooms that Marin made, or just one that we can all work from.
Well, it'd be interesting if Buren could sort of collect all their comments and then pass them on to us so that we can figure out how to deal with it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
well,
in that
that's why I
case,
was,
maybe it's good idea to put in one file, in one place, and maybe
Okay.
ask them to fill.
right, so on the, so for example, on my slide deck, on slide 9, if they can put comments, questions, and people can use this to write. Everyone can write on this, that way we'll have it in one place to work from.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna delete these. And we'll just work from slide 9. I'll put it in the chat again.
I think we should call them back because I have to leave by 9.
Okay,
We only have 13 minutes left, so.
right. So
So
I'm going to
should I close
close
the room?
all room.
Okay,
Yes,
Yeah.
I'll
please.
close.
We should.
Right, I'll give them a minute it'll close it in 1 minute. Okay, so welcome, I think we have everyone back. I'm going to put in the chat, one more time, the link. If you don't have it, or if you closed it, this is a link to the PowerPoint, slide deck that I've been using. And if you can go to slide 9, please. If everyone can go to slide 9. This is where, you were currently in 8 breakout rooms. I'd like you to write in slide 9 some of the questions or comments that you have talked about. I'd like you to put them in that slide, on slide number 9. That way, Joe and Anne and I can work on beginning to help all of you with the plan moving forward. So things that you talked about, oh, I'm sorry, my earring got stuck. Things that you can talk about, that you talked about in your breakout group, I'd like you to add those things in slide 9, please.
Excuse me, I guess we cannot write something on document.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes, one moment, please. Thank you. Thank you. No, not that. Edinburgh. Okay, see, thank you. Was that there? Thank you for letting me know. Okay, if you can you refresh your page and now you should have access. Thank you, Darren, for bringing that up. I was wondering why no one was writing.
So Kessler and Buren, I have to leave because I have another meeting going on and it's taking a little bit of time
Okay.
for people to add the comments in. I think we should start with this tomorrow morning again to see what are the major ways in which we could help them.
Mhm.
But it would be great if you could, I don't know what everybody thinks about that, by the way. I guess I'm raising that as a question, both to Kessera and to all the participants. Is that a good way to proceed tomorrow to make your time valuable and my time valuable, right? To make the best use of our time together. Should we proceed with continue to do like how can we help you and make a plan? And I guess one way to do that is if you could send me these notes or an email, that would be great. So we could have a sense of how we should proceed tomorrow morning. Or it'll be your tomorrow evening, my tomorrow morning. I'm not exactly sure the best way to proceed. That's all. I'm trying to figure out. I'd like to help everybody and
I think there might be some countries that they might already have developed a plan. Yeah, and maybe they can share and discuss about it. And I think, yeah, I believe that by maybe start discussing about what do they plan to do, in what way. Because I discussed this with Dr. Pachari from Thailand earlier, right? Just now, and yeah, she said that she do have some plan, and I think maybe having inviting some country who might have already the plan to share what they want to do. We'll start a conversation about how they design the PD. Yeah.
all right, so if you could send me some notes on how you'd like to proceed tomorrow, that'd be great. I will respond to one of the questions really quick. It says, this is the second point here. It says we plan to adapt the lesson unit on water quality and health in our hands. In our PD training, is it allowed for us to use all the materials? The answer there is 100% yes. You can use all the materials. You can adapt them to your country's need. I think they're all available in a, well, even if they're PDF, you can change the PDF into a Word document, and you can change the materials the best, to help you, right? So yes, all these materials are called creative. They've been developed under a label called Creative Commons Open Source, not for profit with attribution. So what that means is that you can use them, you can modify them. What you can't do is make money off of them. And you should, I don't think you are, that's kind of a joke, but companies do, right? Companies will look for good things, and all of a sudden we'll see Health in Our Hands published by McGraw-Hill. We don't want to see that. That's why it says not for profit. So you can use them but we would like you to always provide attribution. So for instance, if you did the Health in Our Hands unit, you always want to cite the developers of the Health in Our Hands unit. So you can modify them, you can use them, but you should provide attribution and not make a profit off of them. But I don't think you're making a profit.
Ask regarding the answer. I have another question. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, dear.
Yeah. So as I said, for example, some units as interaction, such as interaction, good implemented, because in our physics, in a subject as physics, it's aligned like in an interaction unit. For example, it started with charts and etc. But water quality and health in our hands a little bit difficult, because, for example, in biology or chemistry, we have different topics. For example, about pH. For example, in chemistry in 7th grade, and it can be something about water in biology, maybe in 8th grade. So it's not one after one. Did you understand my question?
Right. I think that's a question actually answered for Kessler and Buren, right? I don't know the agreements that they made with your various nations or for this project. So so Kessler is going to have to answer that one. I will say that we have more traditional units as well. Like, so for instance, if you're looking for more traditional high school chemistry and physics units, and by traditional, I don't mean traditional teaching methods. I mean traditional in that they follow a topic. Like, so for instance, I could give you a unit on the periodic table. It deals with the periodic tables and the trends in the periodic table, but it starts very differently. It starts with a question, a driving question like, how come I can eat table salt, but I can't eat the components it's made up of? I can't eat sodium. If I put a little piece of sodium in my mouth, I'm gonna lose my tongue, right? So it starts with a driving. They do have driving questions. They do start with kids experiencing phenomena, but they're more around traditional content strands. So if you're more interested in those kind of units for the different countries, I could also share those with Kessler too. There's no need to these aren't the goal here isn't to implement these units. The goal is actually to support your teachers in teaching their teaching practices. Is that correct, Kessler? Yeah. Anyways, unfortunately, I have to go. I have another meeting. So, but I will, if Kessler or Buren or Consuelo can send me the notes or how they think I should proceed tomorrow, then I can look at them. That'd be great. And I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow and making plans about how do we move forward, really to improve the teaching and learning in STEM in our world. So we can think of it as a positive thing for 2024, right? A happy part of the world improving the lives of children in 2024, right? Rather than all the crappy news we read every day. So there you go. I'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right.
Thank you. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Mhm.
So maybe if everyone can put in slide number 9 as Dr. Consuelo, and then I will collect it and then send to Professor Joe and Consuela tomorrow.
Mm.
I have difficulties on writing on the slide, so I just write.
Or you can just send me an email.
No,
Yeah.
I just write the issue in the chat
The
box.
chat. Right? Mhm.
Okay.
I will put those, Miranda, I put your comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I put that in, and then, yes, if you have any other comments or things that you want to send to Barin or to myself, that would be fine. I can also add them and give them to, Joe for tomorrow's meeting that you'll have with him.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, and thank you for your time, and I really hope that it is helpful, and I would love to help in whatever way I can.
Mhm. Thank you so much. Yeah, and yeah, so I think tomorrow, if some countries might already have planned, yeah, I think it will be a good opportunity to share, and then to start discussing about the design, of the professional development that you have you already developed it, right? So yeah, I think that I will also, if you also have any ideas about how to use the time of Professor Joe tomorrow, yeah, please feel free to email to Burin or to me. Yeah, we welcome your valuable inputs to help us learn better and also help our teachers in the future. Yeah.
Okay, everyone, I have to go to my next meeting as well. Thank you very much. And
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank
you.
you. See you
Bye-bye.
tomorrow.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a
See you tomorrow.
good night, everyone. Yeah. Bye.